Inspired so far this morning? Me too. I was going to talk about diversity and evolving today, but I think minding the time, because we've got some business to take care of as a community, I'll just talk about evolving and then I'll come back to diversity another Sunday. Is that all right? So we're evolving, at least that's what we say in our guiding principles. We welcome change and innovation and eagerly experiment with new ways of being faithful. 10 years ago, really in this month, I read that guiding principle on what it was at that time your website. And I thought, evolving. What church puts it out there? We eagerly experiment with new ways of being faithful. The church is not known for its bold moving forward quickly. My theology history professor always used to say, and there goes the church marching triumphantly into the 12th century. The church is not known for its change, for keeping up. But our guiding principle captures something so important. In fact, I think the heartbeat of our faith, because Jesus began a movement. His first words were follow, and his last words were go. That's why I love the journey metaphor of spirituality. We are experimenting with new ways of being faithful. We'll talk later today about the Latino ministry team and connecting with our neighbors. Our diversity principle says that we believe that our differences inform and strengthen community. Inform and strengthen. We experiment with new ways of being faithful, which means we are open to failure. Because when we fail, we learn and we try again. Do you know that Thomas Edison had 1,000 unsuccessful attempts before he actually invented the light bulb? In fact, in an interview in 1890, in his own words, said, I tried 3,000 different theories in connection with electric light, yet only in 2 cases did my experiment prove the truth of my theory. And look how the light bulb and electricity have evolved. We are experimenting, CCSM, with new ways of what it means to be faithful in this time, in this age, in our situation, in our local community, and in what is going on in our nation and in the world. We are rooted, but not stuck. When we stop moving, stop growing, resist Spirit's flow, we get stuck. Think about it just for a moment. The church is an institution. An institution, by its nature, means something that stays, right? That's how we're rooted. If we don't want to get stuck, we go with Spirit's movement. It's like the skeleton and the muscles, they work together. We are grounded and rooted in our history, in our tradition, but always moving forward as the Spirit moves us. It's like, you know how you wet your finger and stick it up so you can tell which way the wind is blowing? That's what we do spiritually. Where is the Spirit moving? What is trying to come to birth in this world? And we have evolved in our understanding of God. God, perhaps for most of us, is no longer this omnipotent interventionist God who reaches down and saves something, but rather a God, a presence within, among, and greater than us, that moves within us, that we move with divine intention, divine interaction, with that presence in whom we live and move and have our being, that we go with that presence, evolving. And we need to evolve in this day and in this time, in our nation and in our local community. We must give up some of the ways that have brought us to this moment in time. And Jesus, our teacher, modeled that for us. Jesus emptied himself. He was manifesting a different way of being. He didn't try to have power over, but partnership with. The ancient text that we read this morning, one of the ancient early hymns of the church. And Jesus, who was in the form of God, did not try to grasp equality with God, but emptied himself, made himself a servant. We, beloved community, must empty ourselves, individually and as a beloved community. Empty ourselves of our propensities for thinking we can save everyone, from our imperialism, the colonialism that is in some of our blood. We must empty ourselves of our notions. For those of us that are part of the dominant culture, domination comes easily. We must empty ourselves of those things in order to deeply listen to the stories like we heard this morning. To partner with, not save from. See the difference? This is a beautiful text, except perhaps some of you wondered, how is she going to deal with, and at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow. Brian McLaren, in his new book, gave me a whole different understanding, and I'll end with this. And at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow in heaven and on earth. He says, one day, all of humanity will become convinced that the ways of violence and domination, enslavement and exploitation, supremacy and privilege are wrong and suicidal and ungodly. They will realize that the violent winners were wrong and the nonviolent losers, those who walked the path of Jesus, were right. His humble path of gentleness was right. It doesn't say that they will bow and confess that Christianity is right or the Western Christian tradition reigns supreme. No, they will acknowledge that the powerful leaders of history, from Herod and Pilate to Constantine and Columbus, from the inquisitors and the conquistadors and slave masters to those who exploit the poor and the earth today, are not the lords or the heroes of history. Rather, Jesus had it right. He faithfully and courageously represented the nonviolent and loving heart of God. Jesus and his way of nonviolent, self-giving love, the text suggests, will earn the trust of all humanity. I believe that our world and humanity is trying to evolve into the way that Jesus and the great spiritual leaders have taught. And what we are seeing in the world, with the fundamentalisms on the rise and the backlash and the hatred and divisions rising up, we are seeing a last gasp of an old order that is on its deathbed. And that we must be part of modeling and embodying a way that is different, even in our resistance, so that something new truly might evolve. And to do that, we must empty ourselves and rid ourselves of those paths so well trodden, and embrace compassion, love, humility as we continue to evolve. Our lives depend on it. And as Tony said, never doubt the power of one. Never doubt that those of us who are in the clear need to step into the shadows and partner with those who are not in the clear. And let us do it with grace and humility and fierce courage, remembering that we are not alone. So, wet your finger, hold it up, feel the Spirit's movement, and let's go. Amen.